Hello everyone, in this video we'll learn how to simulate the DHT22 sensor with ESP32 in Wokwi and to display temperature and humidity readings. Moving on to the next one, we will see what is DHT22 exactly. The DHT22 is a temperature and humidity sensor. It is more accurate than the DHT11 and can measure wider ranges from -40 to 80 degrees Celsius and humidity up to 100%. This, as you can see, is the pin structure for it. It has one VCC pin, one data pin, one not connected pin, and one ground pin. Moving on, we have an experiment as to why we need to simulate DHT22. This is useful because you can test IoT projects without buying the hardware. It is also more accurate than DHT11 and it helps beginners to learn faster. This is the DHT11, which is the previous version, and this is DHT22. Now moving on to circuit setup, we can see that in Wokwi, we have just added an ESP32 and a DHT22 sensor. Connecting this signal pin to GPIO15 in the ESP sensor, the ground pin to the ground respectively, the simulator will automatically power it using the VCC input. This will follow a tutorial video as to how to do all of this in action so you can understand things better. Welcome back to another simulation tutorial using Wokwi.com. Now, as you know how to navigate to this page, we move on to the browser. In the browser, you should find 4 boards, and as usual, we put the ESP32 board. And since we are working with an ESP32 starter template, we can go ahead and choose that. Now, we are familiar with the board setup and also the editor section on the left-hand side, so we should be good to go on with the simulation. For this experiment, we are experimenting with the DHT22 sensor, and for that we need to import it first from its components. So we will click on the plus icon, which gives us a list of the icons which are available to use in Wokwi, and we will go ahead and type in DHT22, which brings us the sensor, and we will import it into our sketch. Now, this DHT22 has a first VCC pin. We will connect it to the power supply, 3.3 volts, just like that. And then the ground to the respective ground connection. And the SDA pin to the ESP15 pin, which is here. This pin can be ignored because this is not connected, so this makes our setup complete. Moving on to the coding section. Here is our simple code which we can use to simulate DHT22 into the Wokwi simulator. Here we have defined DHT pin 15, which means in the pin 15 of the ESP board we have connected our DHT22 sensor. And this includes importing the DHT type library, which contains the functions that we are about to use in the coding section. So we will go ahead and define that at first. And then we can go on with serial.begin 115 to 100. This refers to the baud rate at which the serial monitor responds to. And we will also start this DHT.begin, which starts the library which is used in the functions following in the loop. Moving on to the void loop, we have a float h and t values referring to humidity and temperature values respectively. And we will here read those values and store it in floating variables. So there we go. And then if these are irrelevant values or if they don't contain any actual value, there will be a serial output printed saying failed to read from the sensor. If not, there will be this output being displayed in the serial monitor saying humidity and humidity's value, temperature, and then temperature's value, degree Celsius. And this goes on and on with a delay of 2000 milliseconds, which is approximately 2 seconds. So now we can go ahead and run the simulation. This requires us to include this directory or file into our library, so we can go ahead and do that. And now we can see the DHT sensor library is imported. Now it should run fine. It is compiling, and we can see the output here. Humidity 40%, temperature is 24 degrees centigrade. We can also go ahead and, since this is a simulation, manipulate those values. and see if our serial output still prints appropriate values. And it does. So that is it for this one. Here we have learned how to use DHT22 and simulate it in Wokwi and to get appropriate results. Thank you. As you've seen in the tutorial, here is an example of the code which has separate divisions to help you understand it better if you couldn't quite grasp it from the video. And then here is the demo and output. This was our circuit setup for DHT22 sensing using an ESP32. And here we have serial monitor outputting values in humidity and temperatures. So since we have done this in Wokwi, it requires a library to be imported. We'll use the Adafruit DHT library, which makes reading values very simple. So you can just install it from the Arduino IDE library manager, which is located inside Wokwi, and execute as we have discussed before. When running the simulation and opening the serial monitor, we can see humidity and temperatures valued being printed continuously. That's it. We have successfully simulated the DHT22 sensor with ESP32 on Wokwi. This is a foundation for building IoT projects like weather stations, smart homes, and so much more. This provides a wider range and higher accuracy rates. It makes testing easier and to see how your project will get implemented in a hardware setup. Thank you for your attention, and I hope we meet next time.